Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We're excited to see such a strong turnout from across the food and beverage manufacturing community. My name is Kate Perry, and I'll be serving as your moderator. I'm the Industrial and Commercial Market Director at APTIM and an environmental consulting professional where I work with clients to navigate environmental compliance, sustainability initiatives, and emerging regulatory challenges. Today's discussion is designed specifically for professionals in the food and beverage manufacturing sector who are dealing with rapidly evolving environmental expectations, from wastewater management and waste minimization to emerging contaminants and new regulatory developments. For those who may not be familiar with us, among other things, APTIM is a global environmental solutions provider that partners with government and commercial clients to address complex environmental, sustainability, and infrastructure challenges. Within the food and beverage industry, we support manufacturers with a wide range of services, including environmental compliance, permitting, water quality programs, waste reduction strategies, PFAS evaluation, and regulatory advisory services. Our goal is to help organizations not only remain compliant, but also operate more efficiently and sustainably. Today, we're going to discuss several environmental topics that are currently top of mind for food and beverage manufacturers. We'll be covering PFAS and what manufacturers need to understand about the impacts on operations and mitigating risks, wastewater management challenges, including environmental discharge requirements and treatment considerations, waste minimization and sustainability strategies that can help facilities reduce waste while improving operational efficiency, and key regulatory updates affecting environmental compliance in the food and beverage sector. Our goal is to provide practical insight into what these issues mean for your facilities and what steps organizations should be thinking about next. We're fortunate to have a fantastic group of panelists joining us today, each bringing deep experience in environmental compliance and industrial operations. Today's experts are Andy Stewart, Senior Environmental Project Manager specializing in PFAS remediation and environmental program management, Kelly York, Sustainability Waste Minimization Manager, who's a key member of APTIM's sustainability team serving as our waste minimization lead, Tom DeJong, Client Manager, Senior Specialist, supporting project teams for over 30 years as a civil and process engineer, and Tanya Reed, Project Manager and Environmental Health and Safety Professional with 29 years of experience leading EHS programs. I'll invite each of our panelists to expand on their perspectives as we move through the discussion. Before we get started, though, just a quick reminder that we encourage questions throughout the session, so please feel free to submit them in the chat, and we'll address as many as we can at the end. So with that, let's get started with Andy Stewart and PFAS. Andy is a Senior Project Manager at APTIM, specializing in PFAS remediation and environmental program management. She brings more than 25 years of experience in environmental engineering, with a career spanning private consulting, federal service, and complex program development. Highly recognized for her expertise in regulatory compliance, remediation, and permitting, Andy has led comprehensive environmental programs that support mission-critical operations. She delivers practical, technically sound solutions that help clients navigate complex regulations, reduce risk, and achieve sustainable results.
Hello. Thank you to Kate for the intro. I'm Andy, and I'm glad you're all here with us today. I want to give you a clear, practical overview of how PFAS affects the food and beverage industry, especially this year in 2026. During this presentation, we're going to talk about what PFAS is, why it matters now more than ever, and how APTIM can help your organization stay compliant and ahead of the curve. So what is PFAS and how do you even pronounce it? To give you the basics, PFAS stands for per and polyfluoral alkyl substances. That's a mouthful. I pronounce it PFAS. Some people say PFAS. There's really no right or wrong way to say it, but from a technical perspective, PFAS is the general term and PFAS stands for PFOS, a type of PFAS, called perfluorooctane sulfonate. I also say PFAS because I have a Southern accent. I just wanted to briefly touch on that in case anyone out there is confused by pronunciation. Maybe you've heard it said one way or another, but again, no right or wrong way to say it. PFAS chemicals have been used for decades because they're excellent at resisting heat, oil, and water. The challenge is They never break down, not in the environment and not in your body. They persist in soil, water, food systems, and even the human body, which is why states, federal agencies, and consumers have elevated PFAS to a top concern. So, where is PFAS found? Is it some obscure chemical that only floats around super contaminated sites? Sadly, no. Personally, I appreciate when science is accessible and relatable for everyone. So, no matter how much you already know about PFAS, I'm going to use the example of just a normal morning on a regular day. Before you even finish your coffee, you may have interacted with PFAS through your water, beauty products, clothing, cookware, and even household dust. Gross. Makes you want to clean your house right now. Is it raining outside? Maybe you're wearing a waterproof jacket or shoes. Probably contains PFAS. If you grab fast food on the way to work, there's a good chance that the grease-resistant packaging, bakery bag, or even your coffee sleeve may contain PFAS. PFAS is everywhere. And if it can be found in the daily life of your consumer, then it can be found in your industry. But don't worry, I'm here to help you identify where PFAS can be found in your food and beverage facility and how you can mitigate it. PFAS can enter your water and enter your operation in multiple ways. The first one is water. It was on my mind, and it's the most obvious. If your municipal water supply has PFAS in it, then it enters your process. Packaging is another major source, especially grease-resistant or imported materials. Imported materials are important because they can come from countries who don't regulate materials as stringently as the US. Equipment components can slowly release PFAS. Even if your operation is clean, your suppliers may be introducing it. And then there's your wastewater. PFAS can be found in your wastewater for all these reasons we just talked about without you even knowing it. And that's why many wastewater systems now require PFAS source control plans. Do you have one yet? So why does PFAS matter in 2026? Because this year, 2026, is a turning point for PFAS. Regulations are shifting from guidance to enforcement, and the food and beverage industry is directly in that spotlight. That's why I'm going to break down the 4 major reasons why PFAS matters to you right now in 2026. Reason 1, federal drinking water standards. All these numbers on these charts. For the first time, national PFAS drinking water standards become enforceable. This means PFAS in municipal water, the same water you wash with, blend, sanitize, and steam with, no matter where you live or operate, is now a compliance issue with real consequences. If water entering your facility exceeds environmental limits, you may face regulatory or operational impacts, even if the contamination is not from your processes. Reason number 2, federal scrutiny. Federal agencies can coordinate PFAS enforcement. And I know you're all familiar with these agencies. The EPA focuses on water and wastewater. The FDA monitors food contact materials and contamination pathways. And the USDA is concerned about PFAS in meat, dairy, and produce. This multi-agency involvement means more inspections, more testing, and much higher expectations. Reason number 3, state-level enforcement. Some states aren't even waiting on the federal government. If you operate in a state with aggressive environmental policies, expect even stricter limits and more inspections. Many states are years ahead of federal rules and may require additional reporting or treatment beyond those federal minimums. Reason 4, and I think this one might be the most important reason of all to this audience. Consumer and retailer pressure. Consumers now recognize the term PFAS, and that simple recognition shifts market behavior. Major brands and retailers are imposing PFAS-free purchasing policies to protect their brand value. This affects packaging suppliers, ingredient suppliers, and ultimately manufacturers. PFAS strategy is now a brand protection issue. PFAS isn't just an environmental concern. It affects your supply chain, your operations, your wastewater, your packaging, and most importantly, your brand. Understanding where PFAS can enter your systems and processes is essential to ensuring customer safety and regulatory compliance. This is a lot of information, and if you weren't already tracking PFAS, it may be overwhelming. But we want to make the process of making an informed decision about your next steps as easy and seamless as possible. So what should your organization prioritize? I recommend that anyone and everyone start with a PFAS risk assessment. From there, you can truly see where you are and mitigate any gaps. You can tighten supplier controls, identify any PFAS concerns that originate upstream from your facility, review your water treatment capabilities, prepare for upcoming monitoring, and finally, and probably most importantly to your brand, building a communications plan so you're ready to speak confidently to customers, retailers, and regulators. At APTIM, we support manufacturers across the entire PFAS lifecycle. From sampling to risk assessments to treatment design, we can help you understand your PFAS profile and build a clear compliance strategy. We also evaluate packaging and supplier risk, develop mitigation plans, and support alignment with ESG commitments. We're here to be your technical and strategic partner. PFAS compliance doesn't have to be overwhelming. With the right strategy and the right partners, you can protect your brand, your customers, and your operations. And we'd love to talk with you more about how APTIM can support your organization as PFAS regulations evolve. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Kate.
Thanks so much, Andy, for being here today to shed some light on the history of PFAS, what we need to focus on in 2026, and truly how pervasive this problem is. Next up, we have Tom DeJong, who will help us navigate the challenges of wastewater and modern treatment solutions. Tom has over 30 years of project management and civil and process engineering experience related to design, construction, and operational support of municipal energy, transportation, petroleum, institutional, and manufacturing projects. He has managed the design, plan preparation, and construction of a variety of design build, bid, and design build projects involving water and wastewater treatment, flammable and combustible liquids, civil improvements, material collection, and distribution systems, and petroleum systems.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Wastewater is becoming a strategic, operational, and brand issue. And we're going to briefly cover what's driving that change for food and beverage manufacturers and how companies are staying ahead without disrupting operations. Treating wastewater in the food and beverage industry can be unpredictable. Unlike municipal sewage, which is relatively predictable, F&B effluent is highly concentrated and fluctuates wildly depending on what's being produced that given day. Here are some unique challenges that are presented with this industry. They have these, the high organic loads. They're packed with sugars, alcohols, proteins, fats, and this results in the high biological oxygen demand and chemical oxygen demand. They have to deal with variable flow and shock loads. This could be from producing a snack all day, and then you move into 4 hours of cleaning with a caustic chemical, and that just messes up the what that treatment facility has already been working with when you all of a sudden have different contaminants rolling in. Same with fats, oils, and greases, and that's on the headworks of a treatment plant. And typically with dairy meat processing and snack foods, you get this fog. And if you're using membrane technology, it can follow that up real quick and cause a shutdown. They experience extreme pH swings as a result of using a lot of cleaning agents. F&B plants are obsessed with sanitation, and rightfully so. They follow something called GMP, which is good manufacturing practices. You know, there's a whole book on it, and all the pharmaceutical, food, and beverage follow this guidance document, and I believe a lot of it is part of the rule making. So then they're subject to these clean in place cycles on a regular basis. They're subject to nutrient imbalance, the breakdown of waste. Bacteria need specific diet of carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus, and may require additional chemicals to successfully treat the wastewater. The EPA is transitioning from Plan 15 to Plan 16, which continues to study PFAS in industrial wastewater. While new numeric limits for F&B specifically aren't finalized for 2026, they are increasing data collection and reporting for a lot of facilities. The municipal treatment plants are beginning to pass regulatory risk down to the local businesses because they're getting pressure and making them tightening up their effluent pollutants. You have the operational exposure. When a facility has these large fluctuations, they're going to target them. And then facilities that understand and stabilize their wastewater profile right now are going to be better positioned to avoid the rushed and costly upgrades to meet these requirements. Modern treatment focuses on flexibility and resilience. Modular and advanced biological systems handle a variety of variability better, and while pretreatment like DAP systems protect the downstream with addressing like the fog that I had mentioned earlier. Some of these modular systems they're prefabricated. They call them plug and play. Most of the treatment is self-contained in these systems, and so you have ancillary equipment that's pretty minimal. It's an easy way to design a plant, and you're drawing from a lot of experience in competing markets, trying to supply these advanced biological systems. So with some of these advanced biological reactors, you have the membrane bioreactors. You have a moving bed biofilm reactor that's called MBBR. And then you have anaerobic digestion. That's converting high strength organic waste into biogas and turning a waste stream into a renewable energy source. Back to the membrane systems, that's usually using high-end filtration. Then you have your precision pretreatment use of dissolved air flotation systems, or DAFs. And that's what you use to address the fog. Many facilities are also using wastewater strategies to support cost control, reuse, environmental social governance goals, water reuse, resource recovery, and reduce long-term exposure to water risk while supporting sustainability commitments. Some of these sustainability approaches include water reuse, such as cooling towers and boiler feed systems, facility wash down and irrigation systems, and in your first clean in place, essentially you're using a grayer water, and then you get that first flush out of your facility, and then start using your cleaner water. You have your zero liquid discharge. That's implementing high recovery, reverse osmosis to ensure no liquid waste ever leaves the facility. You have leveraging water stewardship as a key environmental social governance metric to meet consumer demand for eco-friendly brands. APTIM helps clients understand their wastewater plan for what's coming and implement practical solutions that work with real operations. Our focus is avoiding surprises, reducing compliance risk, and building systems that stay effective as requirements evolve. Some of our capabilities include process engineering characterization, which would include some wastewater profiling, load balancing, and nutrient management. We also do full design from conceptual to close out on a project. In addition to funding, we specialize in technology integration, and that would be utilizing some of these treatment systems that I've spoken about, like anaerobic digestion, dissolved air flotation systems, MBR and MBBR. We do the water reuse, so water reclamation and resource recovery. Regulatory and compliance strategy, we help people with their permits, altering permits, updating them, and help out with surcharge mitigation. With the automation, we can put in systems, SCADA, that's supervisory control and data acquisition, and the IoT, information operational technology integration, remote diagnostic capabilities, and remote control systems. Most successful facilities are treating wastewater proactively and not waiting for regulations or issues to force action. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tom. This is such a great reminder of how dynamic compliance can be and the importance of aligning with the right internal and external stakeholders to stay ahead of it. Next, we'll hear from Kelly York on the impacts of waste minimization in food and beverage manufacturing settings. Kelly serves as the waste minimization lead for APTIM's sustainability team, where she's focused on advancing strategic sustainability initiatives for clients across public and private sectors. A versatile project manager with deep expertise in waste minimization and regulatory interpretation, Kelly brings over 11 years of experience in the solid waste, recycling, organics, and hauling industries. She leads comprehensive regulatory compliance programs and has a proven track record of delivering impactful results through waste characterization studies, process evaluations, and upstream procurement assessments. Kelly's work helps organizations optimize on-site material management, reduce environmental impacts, and achieve measurable sustainability outcomes.
Thanks, Kate. So today we're going to take a different look at waste. We're going to discuss the evolution of waste and how that evolution has driven regulations, the challenges in regulatory compliance, and their solutions. Understanding this evolution is critical because it directly links environmental impacts to regulatory response and ultimately to today's push for sustainable business practices. So looking back at the pre-plastic era, packaging was primarily made of glass, paper, and metal containers. These materials were designed with clear pathways such as reuse, repair, and even compost. Waste volumes at the time were relatively low, and disposal impacts were primarily localized. Responsibility for waste largely stayed with the consumer or the community at this time. But through the rise and evolution of plastics and into the early 1940s, plastic became the more prominent form of packaging. Plastics were widely adopted due to their durability, the low cost and light weight of material. This enabled longer shelf lives for food and beverage products, reduced transportation breakage and costs, accelerated mass production and distribution of materials. However, the disposal systems did not evolve at the same pace. And between the 1970s and 1990s, plastic impacts drove conservation efforts. Plastic pollution began to accumulate in landfills and waterways and different marine environments. Recycling programs emerged in the 1970s, but were not widely adopted at this time. In fact, resin identification codes and more widely implemented recycling programs didn't gain traction until the late 1980s and early 1990s. And in today's more modern era, we find that we're looking towards more sustainable options as a result. We're seeing growing awareness in climate change and environmental and health impacts. These shifts towards waste reduction, circular economy concepts, and more sustainable materials. Consumer expectations are accelerating and changing faster than business infrastructures can adapt. And businesses are now central players in managing waste impacts, not just the end users. So challenges with regulations. These regulations have evolved rapidly, but not uniformly, creating complexity for businesses. Regulations are now evolving faster than many businesses can adapt. And with a lack of federal regulation, states are filling in the gaps with their own mandates, targets, and reporting requirements. Businesses operating in multiple states must now navigate overlapping and sometimes conflicting rules. Companies must now continuously monitor new and amended regulations each year, increasing the administrative burden and the complexity of these regulatory requirements and compliance risk. Some states, such as California, we've seen in recent years, are adding multifaceted requirements. Regulations may now cover collection, recycling, food recovery, organics diversion, reporting, and more. This also adds more challenges for businesses and involves multiple departments. These requirements often overlap across environmental, sustainability, and operational teams. And data may live in separate systems or may not be existent at all. This complexity increases the risks of gaps and duplicate efforts. Adding to these complexities, businesses who operate in multiple states nationwide may experience additional challenges. Regulations differ from state to state, and sometimes even within the same state at city and county levels. Definitions of recyclability, diversion, and compliance may also vary, and enforcement approaches with different penalties and can be more complex as you look at different states or cities and counties. And this makes it difficult to develop a single standardized waste program. Adding to these complexities, we're now seeing evolving extended producer requirements, or what we refer to as EPR. These are currently adopted in a limited number of states, but EPR and producer requirements vary significantly by state. Materials covered, reporting metrics, and fees may differ. Regulations continue to evolve as states refine their approaches, and with so many changes to new regulations nationwide, businesses must now anticipate the growth rather than to react once they are mandated. Compliance isn't just a regulatory issue, it's an operational and data challenge. New requirements often mean new processes, vendors, technology, and maybe internal resources. Training staff on changing regulations is an ongoing effort and resource intensive. Program implementation takes time and coordination across teams, especially when programs may need to be tailored to meet local or specific mandates. The costs are not just financial. They take time, staffing, and operational focus. And businesses struggle to keep up with the pace of regulatory change while maintaining daily operations. Some organizations lack clear baseline data for waste generation or waste diversion. Inconsistent or incomplete record keeping makes compliance and reporting more difficult. Uncertainty about which data points matter also creates confusion. Without documentation, businesses struggle to prove compliance and to meet their mandates. The question then becomes where to start and what to prioritize. Identifying patterns and reviewing best practices can help turn regulatory pressure into a structured, measurable strategy. Here at APTIM, waste assessments are a key practice for establishing waste data baselines. They help to assess current waste streams and disposal practices, identify inefficiencies or contamination issues, and diversion opportunities. Another emerging pattern we've seen is waste programs. Businesses are now reassessing current diversion programs and identifying diversion opportunities to align with these regulatory requirements, tailoring programs to infrastructure availability. One more pattern is the signage around waste streams. Gone are the days of the single icons of the trash can, the chasing arrows, and the leaf. We're now seeing posters with multiple indicators for acceptable materials and non-acceptable materials. Clear, consistent signage reduces contamination, and it helps employees to make the correct decision at the point of disposal, helps to reinforce training and supports behavior change. In addition to these practices, we've identified and supported implementation of best practices for long-term solutions. Roadmaps and targets help to create phased, achievable steps for meeting mandates and align compliance goals with broader sustainability objectives. Data tracking supports compliance, reporting, and continuous improvement, which enables businesses to measure progress and validate success, which reinforces the principle, if it's not tracked, it can't be measured. And lastly, training. Training is a critical component of long-term success and is often overlooked when it comes to waste. Training and signage work best together. Each reinforces the other. Understanding this evolution of waste helps to explain why regulations exist and why they'll continue to grow. Businesses that take a proactive, data-driven approach today are better positioned to manage compliance, control costs, and support their long-term sustainability goals. Thank you, Kate.
As Kelly highlighted, there's rarely a one-size-fits-all solution, but having the right tools and a structured approach allows organizations to address challenges efficiently without starting over each time. So far, we've covered several key hot topics shaping compliance conversations in the food and beverage industry. And to round things out, Tanya Reed will walk us through broader regulatory updates and what should be on your radar moving forward. Tanya is an accomplished environmental health and safety professional with 29 years of experience leading EHS programs for national, multi-site clients across diverse industries, including chemical manufacturing, construction, light and heavy manufacturing, electric generation and distribution, food manufacturing, natural gas distribution, refineries, retail stores and distribution centers, research and development facilities, and water treatment and distribution. She's a certified industrial hygienist and a certified safety professional. Her experience has made her a trusted change agent who's recognized for improving project labor efficiencies, fostering a culture of safety, and integrating performance-based metrics into enterprise-wide systems.
Thanks, Kate. We've had some great presenters today, and I'm going to continue by touching on several regulatory trends affecting the food manufacturing industry. In 2026, food manufacturers will encounter new federal energy efficiency obligations affecting building systems and equipment procurement. The U.S. Department of Energy, DOE, will enforce updated minimum efficiency standards for commercial gas-fired water heaters. As of October 6, 2026, updated DOE efficiency standards significantly limit non-condensing gas water heater production. Facilities planning capital upgrades for warehouses, processing areas, or sanitation infrastructure must incorporate these requirements into their purchasing cycles to avoid non-compliant installations. Additionally, Energy Star Room Air Conditioner version 7.0 requirements will take effect on May 26, 2026, reflecting new performance benchmarks aligned with DOE rulemakings. Although DOE's commercial HVAC standards under 10 CFR 431.97 do not introduce new obligations specific to 2026, they remain relevant because compliance schedules running from 2023 through 2029 govern numerous categories of cooling and heating equipment frequently used in the food production. These evolving standards require both long-term planning and near-term budgeting. Organizations with extensive facilities should perform energy audits, review current inventories, forecast replacement timelines, and coordinate with equipment vendors to ensure smooth transitions to compliant, high-efficiency technologies within the mandated timeframe. Across the United States, building performance standards, BPS, continue to expand, and 2026 represents a critical milestone for compliance. In Colorado, buildings larger than 50,000 square feet, including many food manufacturing plants, are expected to achieve a 7% reduction in emissions compared to a 2021 baseline. However, Colorado House Bill 25-1269 passed in 2025 reclassified the 2026 target as voluntary, eliminating penalties while still encouraging facilities to begin energy reduction activities. However, the larger 2030 and 2040 performance standards remain in place as enforceable. The bill also provides new flexibility by allowing 2019 as an eligible baseline year, recognizing the impact of COVID-era operational disruptions. Furthermore, Colorado now permits certain local city BPS frameworks, such as Denver's, to satisfy state-level BPS requirements, reducing duplicative compliance burdens. Meanwhile, BPS programs in dozens of U.S. cities are tightening annual reporting and emission thresholds. San Francisco and San Jose have audit deadlines scheduled for early 2026. Food manufacturers operating multi-site portfolios must closely track jurisdiction-specific requirements to ensure alignment, especially because BPS non-compliance can result in significant annual penalties in some cities. Early planning helps guide capital investments, operational upgrades, and emission reduction strategies needed for multi-year compliance pathways. In 2026, both federal and state PFAS regulatory actions will intensify, imposing substantial compliance obligations on food manufacturers. Federally, TSCA Section 8A7 mandates a one-time PFAS reporting submission window from April 13th to October 13th, 2026, requiring detailed disclosure of PFAS manufactured or imported since 2011. Small manufacturers receive an extension until April 13th, 2027. In parallel, states are introducing broader restrictions. At least 15 state laws take effect in 2026, addressing PFAS phase-outs, biphenyl bans, class-based chemical controls, and stringent product-level disclosures that impact facility procurement and packaging strategies. Colorado's January 1st, 2026 restrictions prohibit certain PFAS-containing cleaning products and bar installation of PFAS-treated artificial turf. While Connecticut's January 1st and July 1st, 2026 phases require labeling and notification for PFAS-containing apparel, cookware, cleaning products, textiles, and additional consumer goods. States such as Maine, Minnesota, and New Mexico introduced enhanced PFAS reporting mandates that extend beyond packaging to include a wide variety of industrial and consumer product categories. Food manufacturers must adopt cross-functional chemical inventory controls, strengthen supplier documentation processes, and update compliance systems to address state-by-state variability. These layered obligations represent one of the most expansive chemical reporting and substitution efforts that the industry has faced. State-level packaging laws coming into effect in 2026 will directly influence food manufacturers' labeling, material selection, and retail distribution practices. California's SB 343, effective October 4th, 2026, introduces stringent truth in labeling provisions that that limit the use of chasing arrows recycling symbol unless products meet specific recyclability criteria verified by CalRecycle. This requires companies to overhaul packaging artwork, conduct recyclability assessments, and potentially reformulate packaging substrates. For firms supplying food and beverage products to hospitality channels, Illinois' restrictions on small personal care containers, effective January 1st, 2026, may affect bundled amenity kits or co-branded items used in hotels. These packaging-related regulations represent a broader national trend toward preventing misleading recyclability claims, reducing waste, and promoting consistent labeling systems. Food manufacturers should audit product lines sold in affected states, coordinate with marketing and graphic design departments to update labels, and verify state-level packaging definitions and exemptions to avoid regulatory exposure. Food waste reduction mandates continue to expand in 2026, with California leading two major initiatives affecting food manufacturers. California's AB 660, effective July 1st, 2026, introduces standardized date labeling requirements across food products to reduce consumer confusion and prevent unnecessary disposal of edible goods. This necessitates packaging redesigns, label reprints, and product lifecycle reviews. Simultaneously, California's SB 1383 remains in full enforcement, requiring food manufacturers to comply with organic waste collection, edible food recovery obligations, contamination reduction practices, and meticulous reporting. These requirements apply broadly across production, warehousing, and distribution activities. Beyond California, at least 12 states now enforce food waste bans or reduction targets that apply to large generators, including food processors. In 2026, several states are lowering thresholds for compliance, expanding composting requirements, and imposing higher penalties for landfilling organic waste. Food manufacturers must evaluate waste generation patterns, strengthen diversion programs, coordinate with waste haulers, and develop robust edible food donation pathways. These layered regulatory expectations promote sustainability, but also demand comprehensive operational planning. Moving into employee-related issues, heat illness prevention remains a major regulatory priority for both federal and state agencies. In 2025, food manufacturers were expected to maintain comprehensive heat safety programs for bakeries, retort operations, warehouses, and distribution areas, retaining detailed records of training, monitoring, and hazard assessment under OSHA's Heat National Emphasis Program, NEP, and the General Duty Clause. These records support compliance during inspections and demonstrate proactive mitigation of heat-related risks. Moving into 2026, OSHA has not finalized a federal heat standard, but the NEP remains active through April 8, 2026, ensuring continued enforcement pressure. In addition, state OSHA programs in California, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, Minnesota, Maryland, and Nevada have enforceable heat illness prevention standards that require employers to provide water, shade, rest breaks, written heat plans, exposure assessments, and worker training. New Mexico is advancing its own rulemaking with similar elements likely become mandatory. For food manufacturers operating in temperature-intensive settings, compliance requires ongoing monitoring, engineering controls, acclimatization measures, emergency procedures, and state-specific program alignment. This multi-leveled environment demands strong coordination across EHS, HR, and operations teams to protect workers and meet regulatory expectations. Going into a little fleet safety, in 2025, food manufacturers were advised to maintain internal fleet safety policies because no federal truck speed limiter rule was implemented. Organizations should continue using telemetrics, safety analytics, and driver coaching to manage speed compliance and reduce incident risk. For companies handling hazardous materials during international shipping, reliance on the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration harmonization posture remains important to ensure alignment with evolving global transport standards. Looking ahead in 2026, federal agencies have not signaled new immediate fleet requirements, meaning companies should continue monitoring for changes while emphasizing internal policy enforcement, documentation consistency, and carrier compliance oversight. By maintaining a strong transportation safety management system, businesses can mitigate risks associated with logistics operations while preparing for any future federal rulemaking. Although primarily directed at the oil and gas sector, evolving EPA, methane, and power sector rules in 2026 still influence the operational landscape for food manufacturers, especially large facilities with on-site energy systems or co-located utility infrastructure. By the third quarter of 2026, new methane rules require enhanced leak detection and reporting. And although multiple federal actions have introduced 18-month delays, many obligations now fall into the mid to late 2026 and 27. Food manufacturers with upstream energy patterns should maintain communication to understand regional implications. Additionally, updated steam electric effluent deadlines were corrected on January 28, 2026. Affected facilities connected to or dependent on coal-fired utility wastewater management systems. New NOx standards for gas turbines took effect on January 9, 2026. reshapes the broader climate regulatory context. This change signals a shift in compliance in atmosphere, which energy sourcing, emissions disclosures, and operational permits require ongoing monitoring. Organizations with complex utility arrangements or high energy demand should track these federal changes to anticipate downstream effects on reliability costs and reporting obligations. I appreciate all of you listening. Thanks for listening to the regulatory trends. APTIM has established some robust systems and tools to track regulatory changes from proposed to enacted, and we're currently assisting several national clients to stay ahead of these changes. If you'd like to discuss how APTIM can help you stay ahead of new regulatory requirements, please reach out to us. Kate, back to you.
Thank you, Tanya. One of the biggest challenges in maintaining compliance is keeping pace with constantly evolving regulations. And your insights really highlight the importance of staying proactive. So today we've taken a deep dive into several of the key challenges facing the food and beverage industry as environmental scrutiny continues to increase. Staying ahead of compliance is becoming more complex, with new information and requirements emerging at an accelerated pace. The difference between a proactive program and one that is constantly reacting can have significant operational and financial impacts. Understanding PFAS and wastewater requirements is critical to avoiding costly disruptions, whether that's fines, system upgrades, or production impacts. And at the same time, waste management continues to touch every aspect of operations. Optimizing these systems isn't just about cost savings, it's also about protecting your brand and demonstrating environmental responsibility. When you layer all of this against an evolving regulatory landscape, it becomes clear that compliance is no longer just about meeting today's requirements. It's about anticipating what's next. So we have time for a few questions, so I'm going to go to the chat and see what you have all been interested in. Let's see. Tom, I think this first one is for you. What are some advantages and disadvantages of using a membrane bioreactor?
Well, some advantages, you get a high effluent quality. Your footprint is smaller versus traditional wastewater treatment facility technologies. Low BOD, TSS, nitrogen, and phosphorus. Water reuse is suitable, safer for irrigation or industrial use. There's a lot of flexibility in operating these types of systems. Some challenges or disadvantages of cost. They do cost more likely than a traditional treatment facility. They can foul easier, like I talked to about the DAF earlier, fats, oil, and greases. They get past the system and into the membrane that will upset the plant. Maintenance requirements that can be a fair bit, and then your backwashing requirements, and you have to have maybe some additional permitting for that. Higher concentrated water if you're not able to do some kind of reuse, and the chemical cleaning that comes with it. Thanks. Good question.
Thanks, Tom. And let's see, Kelly, I think this one is to you. This person is asking, how do I know if I'm a producer? How do I determine whether EPR applies to my company?
That is the $1 million question for EPR. So first, I'd like to state that we are not a legal firm, so it's important to consult your internal legal. However, in most states, the producer is the brand owner or licensee tied to the product's packaging. So if you sell products under your own brand into a state where an EPR packaging law exists, you are likely the producer. Producer responsibilities do vary state by state. As I mentioned, they're all a little different as they are all adopting their own regulatory requirements. So it can shift depending on how your products are manufactured, branded, or distributed. So the first steps are really to review what products are subject to EPR requirements in each state. And there is a simplified guidance document on the Circular Action Alliance, or CAA. They are the Producer Recovery Organization, or the PRO. And also on state agency websites, such as in Oregon, the Oregon DEQ has information on their website as well. So it's important to go look at those guidance documentations to help align your products. And, if you need additional support, please feel free to reach out to us. We're always happy to connect you with a subject matter expert.
Excellent. Okay. Let's see. Here's another one. We don't intentionally use PFAS anywhere. So where is our biggest hidden risk? Andy, you want to take this one?
That's a great question. So honestly, the biggest hidden risk we're seeing right now is the supply chain. Even facilities that have done a great job in eliminating PFAS internally are still seeing them come in externally through things like packaging materials, those grease-resistant or imported products, processing aids or equipment components, and sometimes even ingredients, just depending on the source. And that's why I would encourage companies to expand their PFAS strategy beyond the four walls of their facility. So what does that look like? Supplier engagement, documentation, and targeted testing. Those are all critical tools, not just for compliance, but for protecting your brand. And those are all things that we can help you with at APTIM.
All right. Actually, I think this next one might be for you also, Andy. If PFAS is coming from our municipal water and not our facility, are we still responsible for compliance?
Oh, that's a good question. And it's one you hear a lot, not only for PFAS in 2026, but from anyone in manufacturing, right? If it comes into my facility, is it my fault when it gets here if I put it out, right? So even if PFAS originates from your incoming municipal water supply, if you accept it and use it, your facility is still responsible for how that water is used and then discharged. Regulators are focused on what leaves your site, and this includes your wastewater, right? So while you might not be the source, you can still be held accountable from a compliance standpoint because regulators aren't measuring what's happening when the water comes into your site. They're measuring what happens when the water leaves the water treatment facility and then it gets to you, you use it, and your output is your wastewater. They're measuring that. So what we're doing at APTIM is helping our clients to, one, understand their incoming water profile. That's so important because that's where it all begins. Two, evaluate where PFAS may concentrate in their processes. Again, we go back to that question before about where the hidden risk is, right? So where may you have PFAS that you've not identified yet? And then finally, implement treatment or source control strategies where needed. Honestly, it's just about shifting your business and operational thought process from fault to risk management. And again, all of those things we can help you with at APTIM.
Super. Okay. Let me see. I think I have time for one more here. This one says, can you provide examples of remote operational controls? I assume we're talking wastewater here. So, Tom?
Yeah, good question. You hear about a lot of smart systems, and that's exactly what that's pointing to. If you can operate it, open a valve, monitor it, you can control it. It's just how much money do you want to spend on your system? And is that smart spending on the system in that fashion? An example would be if your facility had some high effluent parameters and you want to open a valve and close another, divert that water back to a surge basin while you're monitoring the turbidity and pH until you get that straightened out by increasing or decreasing your chemical dosage. That lends itself in a great way to take care of that remotely and then get it back online. But that's just a couple examples.
Excellent. All right.
Thanks.
Well, it looks like that is about all the time we have for today. So I want to thank again to all of our panelists for sharing your expertise today. And to all of you who dialed in, we truly appreciate you taking the time to join us. Following this webinar, you'll receive an email summary of today's discussion, along with links to additional resources and ways to connect with our team. We hope you'll continue the conversation with us, and we look forward to seeing you at the next session in our webinar series, The Compliance Exchange, Expert Perspectives on Evolving Environmental Challenges Across Sectors. Thank you again, and have a great rest of your day.